Hello, everyone. Good to see you. This is Jacob for English at the Ready, back with another installment of our Your Questions Answered videos, where you ask the questions, we find a pro or an expert on your topic to answer these questions. Today, we're talking about barbecue. This has been a question that I've been asked so many times in the club. What is the difference between American barbecue, international barbecue? In America, are there more types of barbecue than just one, or is it all the same? I had to bring in an expert or somebody who really knows his cue, as we might call it in the South. This is Tico. Tico, could you introduce yourself? Welcome to our little club here and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so my name is Tico, born and raised in Miami, Florida, a melting pot of just a plethora of different nationalities, different experiences, different cultures. So I was fortunate to be in an area and be able to live and experience and be with so many people of so many different walks of life. Um, like I said, I was born and raised in Miami. I have five kids, four boys, one girl. She is my princess. Currently, I am in a law enforcement capacity and here in the DC area.
Tell us a little more about what you do for your career. What is your job? What occupies your daily life?
Always been in law enforcement. Well, no, I can't say that. So I started off in an architectural field, and I ran a couple of firms before I decided to change careers and go into law enforcement. Started in law enforcement back in 1994, so I'm going on my 32nd year of being of service to others. Started in the prison system, so I worked in a prison, maximum capacity, maximum security, and I worked through obtaining so many different types of training. For example, I am SWAT certified. I am certified to deal with riots, hostage negotiation. I am a certified sniper. Uh, just so many trainings that I could go on and on and on to get to where I'm at today. Uh,
Your SWAT training. We know about SWAT from the movies. What does that mean? What is a SWAT officer, or what does SWAT training entail?
So it's a specialized unit and it deals with being able to handle situations that your typical law enforcement police cannot handle. When there's entrapments, when there's hostages, when there's barricaded subjects, then they call SWAT, which is a specialized team. We serve warrants, we do reverse things, we just do a plethora of things, and we're more trained than your average police officer. So SWAT actually stands for Special Weapons and Tactics.
Special weapons and tactics. So
Yes.
anybody who's seen this in Hollywood films, you do special weapons and tactics, and they do quite a lot of things, don't they? It's not just one function. They fill lots of gaps to support local law enforcement. Do you support any of the national enforcers?
So it just depends on what agency you're with.
Mhm.
Most of them just support local, but there are some agencies that actually call in for federal assistance as well.
And what do you do now? This is your background. What do you do now?
So now I actually run the security police force for NASA that's located in Washington, D.C., and it's their headquarters. It's where the administrator and all of the brass, as we call it, sits.
The brass. Define that for us. What's the brass?
So brass is your administrators, your supervisors that are not your typical supervisors at your agency level, but they supervise the supervisors.
We call them the brass. Is there a reason? Is there some brass they wear? Or
So
I always
that's
assumed it had something to do with a metal or a level of.
absolutely. So we how do I put this? We take a lot of what we do from the military. And in the military, I don't know if you've noticed that the higher you are in rank, the more ribbons, the more brass, which are your emblems, are on your uniform. So when they're referring to brass, it's usually because it's somebody of power that'll have the brass on their uniform.
They have the experience, they have the decoration of
Absolutely.
this level. How interesting is that, though, working for security for NASA? I mean, it makes you sound like you're pretty close to the astronauts. Are you close to the astronauts? Are you running security for them as they walk to the rockets, or how deep do you
So
go?
there's many different aspects to NASA, and
Mhm.
without getting into the weeds of the specifics, most people only know of two or three NASA locations. So everybody knows of Kennedy, where they shoot the rockets, and that's in Orlando, Florida, in at the Cape, as we call it. They know of Johnson Space Center, which is in Texas, that actually talks to the astronauts. But there are just so many other locations that support.
That's ground control or mission control in
Yep.
Texas. And you see that in
Mission
the
control,
films.
absolutely, is
Mhm.
what you see in the movies. But there are so many different centers. I believe there's 10 centers that actually support the different missions, the different rockets, the different engines, the different, studies and experiments that all assist with NASA's vision. And right now, their vision is, put another man on the moon and beyond to
Yeah, there
Mars.
you go. Sorry, when you say it, I always hear Buzz Lightyear to infinity and beyond. Just let's get to the
Absolutely.
moon, and then we'll go infinity. Yeah.
Absolutely. So while we don't escort the astronauts to the rockets because that's what Kennedy does, we actually house all of the administration. So the administrator is located where we're at in headquarters and their assistants. The previous administrator that we had um, actually changed over with the new presidency. So now we're waiting on a new administrator to be appointed. But right now, the temporary administrator is the Secretary of the Department of Transportation,
Okay.
Sean Duffy.
Very interesting. But we don't really think
Yes,
about Department of Transportation including space transportation, but I
yeah,
guess in some capacity there's an overlap.
that's who they selected to be a temporary interim. So
It's
that's
sort of
who
not
we
luck of the draw, but that's the person they thought who would do the best job. It's not just an
absolutely,
automatic transition from that
absolutely.
position. Really interesting. Nico, we could easily talk about NASA and all of this for the next hour, but I want to get us back going towards barbecue here. One more question about your work experience and your life experience. What was the worst situation you've ever gone through in your career? One of our students asked this. I feel like someone asks this every time I interview someone. What would be your answer to this?
Okay, so the one that comes to mind is early in my law enforcement career. I had just graduated the academy back in '94, and just before Christmas on December 19th, I was involved in a head-on collision. Um, it took the jaws of life that the fire department uses, which are hydraulic scissors in effect, that
Mm.
cuts the actual pillars to the roof of the car to be able to extract me out of the vehicle because I was trapped. And I was out of work for a good little while. It was extremely challenging because I had to learn to walk again. I had fractured my tibia, I had fractured my sternum, I had bruised ribs, I had cuts and stitches on most of my body. Almost lost my eyesight in my left eye. So it was pretty bad, and that was extremely challenging starting a new career at that time.
When you started your new career, were you still recovering or had you finished recovery? When I say that, I mean, had you really finished recovery? Did you feel 100%, 90%, 80%, or
Not at all, not
not
at
at
all. So
all?
because it was at the beginning of my career,
Hmm.
I didn't have enough earned time to keep me out and being paid on
Hey.
leave. So I did everything I could to possibly get back earlier than I should have in my recovery. So when I got back, I wasn't 100%. I was getting back just to be able to make a living.
And you went from at some point prisons to NASA. Was it prisons and then your injury and then NASA, or was it prisons, injury,
So
prisons again? And how did
So I started in the prison, had the accident, stayed in the prison for 13 years. retired from the prison system. While in the prison system, I got the opportunity to take a number of specialized trainings. So that's when I got into the SWAT, the sniper, the hostage negotiations, the riot, the just all of the special teams that worked with different agencies that were in my area. So I worked with Miami Police, we worked with Sweetwater Police Department, Opelika, we worked with Miami Beach Police Department when they were doing what they needed to do with the special teams. And in for the state of Florida that I worked, we
Mhm.
had our own SWAT team. So we did a number of tactics or tactical situations for the state of Florida at that time. One of the claims to fame that I tell people is um, I don't know if you know who Eileen Warnos was,
That
the
name is
Black Widow.
very,
She
yes,
was
yeah,
the
yeah.
female that would lure truck drivers to give in her rides. She would conduct, sexual acts or whatnot, and then end up killing them in the process. Well, when she was taken to prison, she got sentenced to death. And my team was the team that actually picked her up in the middle of the night and got her to Florida State Prison, where they did what they needed to do after we dropped her off unseen by any of the media or any of the personnel that would follow her.
Interesting. If you're from the US and you were around, that was in what, when was that? Again,
And I can't even remember what year that was, but it was late 90s, I
late
believe.
90s. I was a kid. I was born in 83. So in the late 90s, I remember her. And of course, we have songs like, what is it, Iggy Azalea with Black
Yeah.
Widow Baby and things like that. This is why the Black Widow and the Black Widow murders sort of, I don't know if they're film famous, but they're something we know about from American. Unfortunately, things like this make it into pop culture really well. They just tend
Uh-huh.
to disseminate. And I like to say I don't know why, but I think we all know why. They catch your attention. They're kind of exciting. They sound
Yes.
awful, but I've got to know more, right? Um, that's really interesting. Again, Tico, I could ask you so many more questions about all of this. Again, I asked Tico to come and talk about barbecue. And then just in our little pre interview, I learned he's done all of this. And I've not known Tico that long, but I certainly didn't know all of this about Tico, right? All right, Tico. Now, let's get a little bit more into the meat of the matter. What is barbecue and which meats are generally used when we prepare barbecue?
Okay, so the history of barbecue is a complex one. It actually dates back to indigenous people in the Americas. So they would cook meat on wooden frames of fire. Um, and the Spanish word barbacoa, gave us the modern term for barbecue.
I didn't know
So
which came
that's
first, barbacoa or barbecue.
so
Didn't know.
barbacoa came first.
Okay.
So the practice, was later carried by European settlers, enslaved Africans, and that, they brought Africans to not only the US, but to the Caribbean. And that, spread out into, South and Central America. But that's where it actually started. And then in the US, there are different types of barbecues, and it's based usually by regions and states. There are 4 or 5 major regions that Americans have. You have your Texas barbecue, which primarily focuses on beef and brisket. Why? Because there's a lot of
Okay.
cattle, a lot of longhorns
Mhm.
in Texas. So they deal with,
This is the Longhorn, by the way. If no one
yes,
knows what this is, hook 'em horns. The Texans, that's what they do for Texas, Texas University or University of Texas at Austin. Let's say that
yes,
correctly.
the longhorns.
Longhorns. Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the other regions is the Carolinas. They have their own particular barbecue, and they specialize more in pork, particularly pulled pork. So they do, the pork shoulders, and they cook them and then shred them into
Yeah,
pulled pork.
listen to that accent. He said, "Cook 'em and shred 'em." You know where he's
Absolutely.
from, Southeast. You know it.
Then you have your Memphis, back in Tennessee. They have their own type of barbecue. They're famous for their ribs, and they can do them either, a dry rub, or
Mm.
sauced with barbecue sauces. And then the other major region is Kansas City, and they're known more for their sweeter barbecue. Tomato based. Emphasizing smoke. One of the ones that are up and coming states that actually wants to get into the game
Like
that
how
I
you
would
say that.
consider like the fifth region
Mm.
would be Alabama.
Bama.
Uh,
See,
down
see,
south.
I was born in Texas, so I have to jump in here and say, ha, Bama boys.
Yes.
Coming in late to the game, like
Yes,
always.
absolutely. And their claim to fame is their particular barbecue sauce, and they have something that's called a white sauce,
White
which
sauce.
is more mayonnaise based, but they specialize more in smoked chicken.
Okay, so it's not real barbecue.
No, no, it's not. It's
This is
not
a
the
joke. When
beef or
I
the
say
pork.
this, it's barbecue, but people who are really purist,
Yeah,
you can get away with beef and brisket in Texas, but pork barbecue, would you agree pork barbecue is it's like the barbecue for most people?
absolutely. It's either pork or beef, and that's the two main types of barbecue.
They're the kings of barbecue, pork and beef. Chicken, we do it.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else we barbecue? Is there anything weird we barbecue? Anything that,
We barbecue anything and everything.
and he's from South Florida, so I bet you
Absolutely.
barbecued some gator before. Yeah?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I lived
Barbecued
in
and smoked
Tampa for a
gator.
little while, and even that barbecue gator made its way up in our area. We had a great Cuban community. I loved all the Cuban food, but one thing they would do is we'd say barbecue a mean gator, right? It was a
Absolutely.
really good one.
And so, that's the American type barbecue. And then you have other areas like your South American barbecue,
You
which
would
varies.
touch on the Americas. If you would say like Latin America and then South American, without going too long or saying too much, I guess, how would you quickly quantify or qualify their barbecue?
So their barbecue is a little different. So
Mhm.
while the Americans focus on complex sauces and recipes, like I'll give you an example, Argentinian barbecue
Mhm.
just focuses on simple seasonings like salt, maybe a little pepper. And when they do salt, they do the rock salt, which helps bring the flavor of just the meats. And then instead of doing brisket or doing pulled pork, their type of meat that they barbecue or like flank steaks or skirt steaks or chorizos.
That's a key there. Chorizos and flank steaks, skirt steaks. They like to butterfly their steak and open it
Yes.
up. Yeah.
So it's more of a simplistic style of barbecue. Not saying it's any worse. It's just different, and it works for whatever palate you're looking to get.
And is
All of it is
this
great barbecue.
asado? Is this asado in Argentina?
Yes,
Or is it okay? So it is asado. It's not
it
something
is.
different. It
No,
is
it's a
asado.
solid.
Very good. I lived in Buenos Aires for a while and I got to go out in Las Pampas,
Yep.
grassland area nearby. And we had a huge asado grill. It was amazing. It was wonderful. We grilled everything out there that summer. It was amazing. Chimichurri? What's your feeling
Chimichurri
about
is
chimichurri?
what they, instead of barbecue sauce, that's their claim to fame, is the chimichurri.
No.
And the chimichurri is just an amazing add-on to uh, the type of barbecue that they have.
La
Uh,
lengua, la idioma, en el asado.
yes.
Right.
So for them, it's an all-day thing. It's a let's get family together, let's get friends together. It's the fellowship with the barbecue.
And this is
Uh,
something where I would compare Texans, Argentines, and say this is where, in ways, I felt at home in Argentina because Texans also will have big barbecues sometimes with family and communities will get together, all grill. And in Argentina, very, very similar. The style is a bit different, but the community is, in my opinion, with horses around after a day of horseback riding, you go and you have asado by the grill. This reminds me a lot of Texas.
and another type of barbecue is your Caribbean.
Caribbean.
For example, your Cubans, they do a little different because it's not usually on a barbecue grill.
Hmm?
They use pits, or they use what they call cajachina, which is translated into a Chinese box. And what it is inverted cooking. So it's a wooden box that's lined with aluminum that they put an entire pig in, whole hog, and the coals go actually on top of the box. And so then at one point you'll end up flipping the pig or the hog and cooking the other side.
Others.
But it is a long drawn out process, kind of like smoking for Americans.
So this is pit barbecue. This is where the
Pit
idea of
barbecue.
pit barbecue.
Absolutely. So it started by digging holes in the ground and cooking in the ground, and then covering it up with banana leaves, and then putting the coals on top of that, and then covering it with dirt again to kind of seal the heat that would cook the meat in the ground.
When you say a long process, what's the ballpark figure for this
So
process?
for cooking a whole hog, it can take anywhere from like 12 to 16 hours.
12 to 16 hours. So the greater part of a day. You have to begin this
Absolutely.
early in the morning if you want to have the community over for dinner that night.
And the community would be over, first thing in the morning before the sun comes up, because again, it's that fellowship.
Everyone
They'd be
together.
out there, talking, engaging, drinking, just having a good old time in the process of the barbecue or pit cooking.
Okay, so 16 hours of fellowship. They were to spend the whole day together
An
and
entire day, absolutely.
everything. Incredible. See, I love the community around barbecue. And I always talk about how much I love our community with English at the Ready and with English training and how, we build community with people who are all over the world and barbecue with your local community. It's a community center for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little more about you. How and when did you get started barbecuing?
So the funny thing is, I started in the prison system. So we did events for different things. One of the guys that ran the events was an older gentleman, uh, typical um, barbecue master. When you think of barbecue master, what do you think of? You think of a heavy set man,
Yes,
uh,
wearing a
usually
big black
usually
apron or
black,
something.
an apron,
Kind of slimy, probably
sweating
sweaty.
on a huge grill.
Yeah.
That's usually cut out of a 55-gallon drum, and that's where he would cook for the event. So we had one of those in the prison, and one of the guys that would help him actually couldn't help him. So he turned to me and he's like, "Would you like to learn it? Could you help?" And I was like, "Absolutely,
Yeah, let's
I'll
do
help.
it.
What do I need to do?" And then helping him that first time, everything went so well, and I picked it up so quickly that we actually became a team and would cook for, up to 300 people on these grills.
That's something. And that was within the prison system. Did you
That was
have,
within the prison system.
were prisoners allowed to have barbecue too? Did
No,
you
this
cook?
was not for the
Not for
prisoners.
them at all.
This is
This was
for the
for
prison
the
workers,
workers.
the managers, all of the supervisors for the events, the wardens, which were the actual supervisors for the prison,
Mhm.
would come out for these events.
How important was teamwork in that job? Because I would
Oh,
imagine you have to be a pretty tight team to run
absolutely,
correctional
absolutely.
facility.
You got to have timing. There's got to be teamwork. There's got to be communication. It gets hot. You typically burn all the hairs on your arms from trying to flip, all of these, chickens. If chicken was,
Single
on the
time.
on the
Yeah.
main course, and you got to get it right. You got to make sure that it's cooked through. You got to make sure that it's seasoned correctly. You got to make sure if you're putting sauce on the chicken that all of it gets sauced, and then it gets plated with the rest of the food. But it was a long process, from beginning to end.
Mhm.
And he taught me all of the ins and outs and the secrets to the charcoal cooking.
So you would say that's the person you learn everything
That is the
from?
person I learned.
What
Actually, that's who I got started with. And
what about your continuing education with
so
barbecue?
I'm a type of person that I like to look at other people and how they do things and what they do, and then I'll take bits and pieces of what they do that I may like, and then incorporate that in what I do. Um, so, for example, if I'm watching a cooking show and I see that a chef is using a specific seasoning, and I'll give you one of my secrets. So write down if you want to.
Oh, okay.
I saw a
Pen and paper
chef
ready.
that was actually using espresso for his beef. to
Now I've
bring out
had
the bold
some espresso
flavors.
added to some
Yes.
of my asado in Argentina, and I remember it being delicious, but I'd forgotten about that until you.
So when I saw him using it, I was like, how would this go with ribs? And I started experimenting, and through experimenting, and I call barbecue art, because
Mhm.
everybody's is going to be different. Everybody's palate is going to be different,
An art style.
but what you do is an art that you present to somebody else for their liking.
Yeah, and it speaks about you, doesn't it? You could say your style of barbecue speaks
It's
about you as a
unique. it,
person.
it is your style, and nobody else can do it but you.
I'll ask you a little later to define your style of barbecue, but all of this is sounding really good, and I'm getting hungry. I'll tell you what, I've eaten dinner tonight, but I'm getting pretty hungry just listening. Tell me, we mentioned or you mentioned some sauces earlier. What is the story with sauces? How do you select the right sauce to go with your barbecue? Maybe how does this differ in different regions? Some regions maybe they use sauce, maybe they don't. Are any regions against sauce? You know,
So yes, so again, it goes back to the 4 or 5 regions that we talked about earlier, and a lot of them actually use your typical tomato-based, sweet and tangy, smoky barbecue sauce. So your St. Louis, your Kansas City, your Memphis, and your Texas all have that same. That's the one thing that ties them all
brings them
together.
together. Even Western North Carolina would be that way, right? With
Yep,
it's sweet and tangy.
absolutely. So
Sauce.
interestingly enough, South Carolina differs, and
Hmm.
so does Eastern Carolina. So
Yeah,
the Carolinas are the two that decided we don't want to go with the tomato-based sauces. So in South Carolina, they call it Carolina Gold Sauce.
kind of
Why?
gold.
Because it's a mustard-based sauce
Mhm.
that they add a little spice to it, and it's their staple. In South Carolina, that's what you're going to find.
Is different, and it
It's
looks
different.
different, and it's yellow,
Absolutely.
compared to what we typically
That's
think
com-
of as the red
the
barbecue.
red sweet barbecue sauce. And it varies. Some make it spicy, some make it more sweet and tangy,
Mhm.
but it's tomato based. And
I
then
grew
it no, no, go ahead.
I grew up in North Carolina, so I know I grew up near Lexington also, very close to Lexington, North Carolina, and Lexington barbecue is locally we say it's world famous. Now, is it? Maybe it's known, but we think it's something special. When you go to the east, your barbecue changes color. And it's is it like the South Carolina barbecue, or is there a difference between South Carolina and Eastern North Carolina barbecue?
So it is completely different.
Okay, how
So
so?
Eastern Carolina actually has a more lighter vinegary
Vinegar.
based barbecue sauce. So it's not your thick, sweet and tangy. It's more of I would describe it of a runny, liquidy, vinegary based sauce.
See, I'm familiar with that. Like I went to University of North Carolina at Wilmington, so I was down in the east, and you could go just a little bit to the west into the Sandhills area, and you would find lots of this type of barbecue. And for me, I liked it. It was good, but I grew up around, Lexington barbecue. I was used to
Mhm.
that red, tangy, sweet style of barbecue. And then I, was born and my early life in Texas, where we had big hunks of meat all this to me like this is all barbecue. And I remember being confused when I was a kid. I'd order barbecue and I would look at it and say, why is this yellow? Why isn't this red? It doesn't look right.
And that's why. And then the last coming in that I kind of mentioned earlier is your Alabama sauce. And Alabama had to be different,
How
and
to
they
be
have
different.
what they call an Alabama white sauce, and that's more mayonnaise based sauce.
So if you don't
So
like mayonnaise, you probably won't like the Alabama sauce.
that is correct.
And my wife does not like mayonnaise. She has this thing, I don't know why, for Alabama. She almost went there for law school at one point. Did not go there, but she almost went there. And I think she has this romanticized view of Alabama, but I say sauce. I like mayonnaise, but it's Alabama. You go
Yes,
from Texas to North Carolina,
absolutely.
and
So
there's a lot of
that's the
competition,
sauces.
isn't there? There's a lot of competition between these styles of barbecue. Mine's better than yours, yours is not better than mine. And regions, it's almost like a football team in a lot of ways. It's which team do you play for? Which style of barbecue, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But tell me, Tico, let's shift the focus to you a little bit again. What's your favorite thing to barbecue and why?
So my favorite thing to barbecue is ribs. Uh, it's actually one of the harder things to barbecue, short of brisket. But if you don't cook the ribs correctly, then they come out chewy and they don't come out tender. So that was always a challenge for me, is how I can make the most tender ribs while maintaining its juiciness without drying it out,
Hmm?
and having my signature sauce uh, on the ribs.
Okay, and what was the trick for you to get your ribs just right? Was there a light bulb or aha moment that it all just clicked for you?
So I actually used my staff to give me thoughts and input. So what I would do is I
Your
would
poor
make
staff.
barbecue for my staff, and I would tell them, "I'm going to feed you guys. Just give me your honest opinion. I don't want to hear, 'Hey, it's good.' I want you to tell me, 'Hey, is it too salty? Is it too sweet? Is it too dry? Is it overcooked? Is it undercooked?' Give me your honest opinion." And as I would do that, I would, kind of edit and tweak my recipe to kind of get it where I wanted, where my vision was. And again, back to art. How do you want this to turn
It
out?
sounds like it's like a painting. You're trying to paint a
And
painting
you're
and make
trying
a
to
client
paint
happy.
this, this food.
Yeah,
And when you have it right, they don't say anything. The minute they bite into, whatever it is that you're
silence.
serving them, their eyes light up. It's like they get a glow about
That's the
them.
moment.
And that's it. That's the smile I was
Like
looking
this
for. I don't
barbecue
need anything
nirvana. They
else.
make it and they just, you see them rising into the air.
Yep.
This is wonderful. So it is really an art. You can see people just like they're observing a painting, they get lost in it. They take a bite of this barbecue and that's all they know until that barbecue is
Absolutely.
gone. Well,
Absolutely.
look, if you ever need a barbecue guinea pig, you know where I live, about thereabouts.
Absolutely.
So I can't imagine if I worked with you, I'd be so upset. He's just trying out, honey, I can't have dinner tonight. Tico's trying out this new barbecue recipe. I've got to help him. I don't want to, but I will.
I had plenty of staff members get in trouble with their wives. One in particular, I remember, he had brought food. He brings food every day to work because the wife makes sure she cooks for him, packs his lunch
Hmm.
so that he could eat. One of those days, I brought food in, and it just happened to be ribs that I was making. So he made
Oh,
the mistake and took his lunch back home. So naturally, the wife asked, "Why didn't you eat?"
this is like my daughters in elementary school when they bring a packed lunch home. We say, "What did you eat?" And then we look at, because nowadays we have an account with the school and they can spend money. Well, they had this delicious. We spent money to cook this or make this food for you.
And
Same
he
deal.
didn't eat it. So
Think you'd
um,
learn.
she asked him, "Okay, what did you eat?" Just like you would with your daughter, right? And he's like, "Oh, Tico, the boss, brought in ribs." And
Got to
then, like
emphasize the
a
boss. The boss
well,
brought in ribs. I had to have them. I could not say no.
absolutely. So, in the mistake that he made was on the follow-up question, because like anybody else, she asked, "How was it, and is it better than mine?"
Be the
And he
fifth.
paused.
Don't answer.
And when he paused and didn't answer, she goes, "Oh,
Ooh,
well, then he can make you ribs from now on."
ooh. It's not even the doghouse. It's you're going to Tico's house. They say, well,
Yeah,
at least he makes good barbecue.
yeah.
No, yeah,
So
that's something you learn in elementary school. You do not take lunchbox full of food, or from my
back
mom, even
home,
half full of food home. You dump it out, you feed it to somebody else,
give it to
you
somebody
don't take
else,
it
but you
home.
don't bring it home again.
This is good. So Tico, you talk about ribs are your favorite. What is Tico style barbecue? How, without giving away too many secrets, I mean, give away secrets if you want to. Don't let me hold you back, but what is Tico style?
Absolutely, I'll tell you, because even if I give you the recipe,
Rip
unless you
my
know how to put
bag.
it together, it's very difficult to get it right.
It's an art.
So
An
it's an
art.
art. So first and foremost, the biggest mistake people make with ribs is not taking the silver lining underneath the bones on the ribs. So you have to remove the lining. So
And that,
once
so how can we visualize exactly what that is? I know I've heard this before, but When I
It's a
look at a
piece of
rib,
skin. So if
mhm,
you look at the underside of the ribs, you'll kind
the
of see like a
underside is it's the
whitish
curved
piece of
part.
skin. Yes, on the
Yep.
curved part.
Okay.
So
So
if you actually put your finger in one of the bones,
mhm,
you'll see that the top layer of that skin actually comes up.
okay.
It's very, very thin. But if you cook with it, it becomes very, very tough.
I can imagine. I can think of ribs I've had that I thought something's wrong with this rib. I bet that's what it was.
Absolutely.
I mean, it seems like it's very distinct. It gets tough, and it's like there's, I mean, there's a film on the bottom of your
It's
rib,
a film. That's
like
what
rubbery,
exactly it
chewy film.
is. And it makes it tough. It doesn't make it an enjoyable piece of meat. So that's the first. Then you have to start with a binder. The binder that I use, and what a binder is something that's going to create or have moisture that allows the seasonings that you're going to use to stick to the meat. So it's almost like the glue. What glue are you going to use so your
Kind of like
seasonings?
baking a cake. I think most people know eggs are a common binder or binding agent in
Absolutely.
baking. This is like that for ribs.
Absolutely, for ribs and barbecue. So the binder that I use is yellow mustard. Why? Because yellow mustard has vinegar, and vinegar is going to help release the toughness in the meats. So then you use your seasonings. I
This is why
typically
we put
use
vinegar on. I grew up in the South, right? On collard greens, we put
yes,
vinegar on collard greens because those things can be pretty tough sometimes. You
yep,
roast, not boil them for a long time, and then you put vinegar on them, and it helps to make it more palatable.
absolutely,
Huh, that's interesting. Same concept.
yep. So then I layer my dry rubs, where I'll use the salt, the pepper, I'll use cumin,
Um,
paprika, I'll use spice like cayenne because I like my ribs to have a little bit of a kick.
Kick.
Absolutely. And as I told you earlier, the secret ingredient is the espresso.
That just sounds really good. All that with a little espresso sounds just. There's just something I can imagine how that espresso tastes on those ribs. Again, I had it on asado, but on ribs, sounds like something special. Man.
Absolutely. So once I have all of that, I'm ready to put it in the smoker.
Mm,
So I'll smoke it at 225 degrees, and then I'll use apple wood, and then I'll use cherry wood. So the woods that you use are important to the flavor that you're trying to bring out.
not just any wood. You want to
Not
use a
just any
wood to
wood.
bring out a certain
So a lot of
flavor.
people use the hickory or mesquite,
Mm,
but they bring a bitterness to the meats, and tender meats like pork will make them bitter. Those are reserved more for like beef, like when you're making brisket or when you're making beef sausages
mm.
or when you're making beef steaks. You can smoke them with hickory and mesquite, which is what a lot of Texas or Texans
Yeah,
use.
mesquite barbecue and old mesquite trees out on the range. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So I'll smoke it, on low for about 2 or 3 hours, depending on how many racks of ribs I got. Once I see that they've reached the desired doneness that I like, then I will pull the ribs out, and that's where I will sauce my ribs. So the trick to my recipe is it's not only a dry rub, but it's a wet that goes on top of the dry. I put the barbecue sauce that I make on top, and I wrap the ribs in
Oh,
butcher paper or aluminum foil, whatever you have, and then put them back in the smoker for another 2 hours. So what happens now is you're going to have almost like a chemical reaction where the dry rub and the wet are going to start incorporating in one another and marrying the flavors. So now you have something new. It's not just, the seasonings that you put on, and it's not just barbecue that you put on at the end. Now you create your special sauce with the dry seasonings and the wet barbecue.
ooh, I can just see that happening while you describe it. I can just see it inside of that foil or butcher paper. I can
Yep.
see all that those chemical reactions just going off and something delicious coming out. Oh,
So after
yeah.
after those 2 hours that I have them in there, then I'll take them back out, unwrap them, give them one last layer and light brush of barbecue, and then I'll caramelize it back in the smoker where it will make it almost like a sweet and tangy with a hint of spice. Um, and when it comes out, that's the work of art. It falls off the bone, it's tender,
That's it.
it's delicious.
And that right there, this, when we talk about American barbecue, when you say barbecue around the world, lived in China for a while. In China, barbecue, BBQ, they call it BBQ. is meat on a stick on a grill. That is all it is. There are some people who make something that is kind of like a pit style barbecue. You can find it, but it's not the same. And most people think that it's just meat on a stick. And again, you think of movies like The Rescuers Down Under. I watched when I was a kid. Throw another
Mhm.
shrimp on the Barbie, Australian
Yeah,
English, right? And what does that mean? Are we barbecuing the shrimp? No, we're really just grilling the shrimp. American barbecue, special, different. There's a history and culture behind it.
absolutely.
Tico, I'm looking behind you while you're talking about sauces. Do you have some sauces behind you on a bookshelf?
So that's actually my coffee bar, and I'll kind of
A coffee bar,
show you.
okay. I just see these little, it looks like sauce
Yes.
um, tubes, but
Yep. Those are my
coffee bar.
different coffee bars. So it's kind of like a Starbucks. You'll get your different
Okay.
flavors. Um, so I'll have caramel, chocolate, dark chocolate, white chocolate, for just the different types of coffee.
Mhm.
Because again, being of Latin descent, coffee is a staple for us,
So,
especially espresso.
being of Latin descent, I don't think we actually established where are you originally
So I like
or
to
your
tell
culture.
people that I am the most American that they're going to meet.
I
And
love
when they
and
find
please,
out I'm
please
Latin,
somebody
they're like,
write this
how?
down and just somebody record this and put it out there. The most American he can be. What does that mean to you? I'm so happy you say that.
So I was born in Miami Beach, Florida.
Mhm.
So I was born in North America,
Okay, so
um,
American.
American. So my father was born in Colombia. So Colombia is in South America. So now I have not only North America, I have South America. And my mother was born in Nicaragua, Central America.
He's not even just talking about United States America. He is American of the
American.
Americas.
And that's what
Love it.
people don't, kind of put together. There's more than one America, and it's not just North America.
2007 was my first time being out of the country, and I studied Spanish, Castellano, in Argentina. And I will never forget a conversation I had with the lady I was staying with, Mama Marcela in Buenos Aires. And she was adamant that she's from Chile, living in Argentina, and she is American. And she would tell me this all the time. And I would say, yeah, I guess you are. But it was just, I had never thought about this being just a young guy from North Carolina, Texas, South United States. We call ourselves American, but the Americas are quite big, aren't they?
Absolutely.
It's not just North America, and we're only a portion of North America, too.
Yep. So you have Central and South.
Yeah, fascinating. So, does some of that history and culture of your own influence the way you see your art of barbecue?
Absolutely. So one of the other things that I like to make that is requested is pulled pork, pork shoulder.
Mhm.
So I make my pork shoulder a little different than everybody else because I will marinate it first in Spanish seasonings, what we call mojo or what we call bitter orange, naranja agria.
Mhm.
So I will marinate it in those sauces first, whatever time is needed depending on the size of the pork shoulder, before I start the layering effect of putting on the binder, putting on the dry seasonings. So what's special about the pulled pork that I make is because it was brined in Spanish seasonings, and then it has the American dry rubs on top because I don't put any sauce at the end, so it has no barbecue sauce. Um, Once it's done and I pull it apart, you'll have the traditional garlic, lemon, lime, orange, bitter orange flavors on the inside with that hint of a bark that you get from your Texas barbecue.
That sounds amazing. That sounds like something I don't know if I've had anything quite like that. When you talk about the bark, what's the bark? Describe that for our students listening. The bark, like on a tree, but we're not talking about wood and the fire. We're talking about texture.
Texture on the meat. So a bark is the outermost part of the meat. And to put it in layman's terms, in the simplest terms, it'll look like your meat is burnt. And while people see that as a bad thing, it's actually very good because that's where your flavors are. That's where your dry seasonings
Bark.
have cooked on that bark, making it almost like a crunchy type of texture. And that's where all of the flavors just uh, bind
Is this
onto
something you bite
meat.
into and it's juicy? Does juice drip out of
Absolutely.
this bark?
Absolutely. Because you'll get that crunchy outermost part of the meat and then the juiciness of the pork or the brisket that's underneath it.
That sounds amazing. So I guess there's an art to making the bark too. It's not just
Absolutely. It's
something you just
not it's
do.
not something that just happens. Absolutely.
Tico, what are some common mistakes beginners make? You've mentioned a couple of things, and what are some tips you give people who are just now learning or starting this journey to learn how to barbecue well?
Okay, one of the biggest things that I see when I'm helping others out is they try and put so much meat on the grill, they overcrowd the grill. And remember, you're dealing with heat. And if you have so much food that's taken up that heat, it's not going to cook evenly and it's not going to cook well. So what I tell them is, pick a decent amount of food that you want to put on the grill, but you want to be able to see some of the grill after you put the food on the grill, if that makes sense. You don't want to take up
You don't want to
every
just
inch
fill
of
it with meat.
space on the grill. Another mistake that I see beginners make is they're so curious that they're constantly lifting the lid on the barbecue.
That would be. Whenever I grill, I lift up way too often. On a
So
new
what
grill,
ends up
especially,
happening is you let the heat out and you end up overcooking and drying your food out instead of letting the grill do its job and do its work. One of the other things is people not cleaning and preheating the grill, prepping your grill before you start cooking.
prepping. So I just don't just use my grill, close it up, go inside, come out, grill again, close it up, go inside, rinse and repeat over and over. I need to actually prep my grill or
Absolutely, you got
clean
to
my
be able to
grill.
clean it. So the mistake that people make is like they always say, "Oh, well, you don't want to lose the flavor." No, the flavor is on the inside of the grill, on the walls of the grill. That is where your flavor comes from because it's going to heat that up. But your grill grate, you want to be able to have a clean grill grate. So A, your meat is not sticking to it, and B, you're not catching anything that was left from, the last time that you used your grill.
Makes sense. Cross contamination of your grill, of your
Absolutely.
grilling. I don't want to say this, of your grilling. Let's say your grilling experience, right?
Yes.
Last time was last time. Wash it
Yep.
off, clean it up. Let's have a new one for this time.
Absolutely. So, prepping your grill is very important. One of the other things is when I see people using lighter fluid, I think that is a huge no-no because
Why?
lighter fluid will give you that lighter fluid taste on the food. So they have what they call chimneys, and basically it's like a little metal tube that you put your charcoal in, and then you light the bottom, and the bottom actually cooks or actually starts your coals. So I would recommend them using antimony over lighter fluid because it's going to change the flavor of the food.
Sure. I can recall having grilled meats or barbecue that has tasted a little bit like some kind of oil, which is the
Yes,
lighter fluid.
which it'll be the lighter fluid.
And that's because somebody used lighter fluid under the meat. And
And they just overdo the lighter fluid because they see that the
I
coals
just
aren't
wanted to
starting
start.
and they keep putting it on and putting it on and putting it on,
I can see that
like
being a
adding
very
gas to the
common.
fire.
So let's do our due diligence also and touch on grill safety precautions while barbecuing. What are some things that people need to be aware of when barbecuing?
So, uh, one of the things that I always say is make sure that you're in a safe location. So make sure that the grill is positioned, where it's not too close to the house or where it's close to something that's flammable, like the trees overhead. Nearby items. If you have a stack of wood or paper that may catch, fire because of the wood. So that's one of the things that I often preach is make sure your grill is in a location that you're going to be comfortable with and you're going to be able to cook without having any accidents or any problems with your fire, especially if your fire gets out of hand. And sometimes that occurs from the greases that come off of the
That's
meats.
what I hear. The most dangerous thing are the greases that are hanging out in the bottom of your grill
Absolutely.
that people just too lazy or forget to clean, catches fire eventually.
And you get a lot of that with your sausages because your sausages release a lot of that grease.
The sausages, would you say they're one of the more dangerous things to grill because of that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's really, if you rank your meats from most dangerous to least dangerous, what would you say, sausages being number one, I guess, most dangerous, what would you say is something else you have to watch out for? This doesn't have to be scientific. Just off the top of your head, what's another meat or two or three that you have to think?
Your porks. Your porks
Pork?
have a lot of grease in them. Yeah. Your leaner meats are the ones that are going to be easier to cook because they're not going to drip the grease from the meat.
Chicken, most beefs, these aren't
Chicken,
as much
beefs,
of a
yeah,
trouble.
are going to be the easier ones to cook.
But pork and any sausages you should really be careful with.
Absolutely.
Really interesting. Tico, I don't want to take up too much more of your time this evening. I really appreciate the time you spent answering questions. Our students had so many questions for you, and you've covered, even within the questions I've asked you, you've covered quite a few. I sent Tico a whole basket of your questions, and he's done a good job preparing. I'll tell you what, I can tell Tico did his homework, and I appreciate it. I know everyone who watches this video will also appreciate it. Tico, thank you so much.
No problem. You have my notes. So if you get any other questions, feel free to use my notes or reach out and ask some more questions, and I'd be happy to help in any way I can.
You heard that. If you have more questions, if there's something specific after watching the interview, send me a note and I'll send it on to Tico. Tico, do you have any closing remarks? Anything you'd like to say as we finish?
Uh, enjoy what you do. Do it for the smiles that you get in return. And by all means, by all means, love on your family and make it a family affair.
I like it. It's all about community. It's all about your family, right? It's all about the smiles and how you make other people feel. Tico, once again, thank you so much. And everyone, thank you for watching our video. And I look forward to the next Your Questions Answered video coming hopefully in the near future. Everyone take care. See you in class.
Have a good one.